So I sat back, tried my best to relax, and I watched the movie like any regular person does on a plane, minding my own business and looking for those hot, steamy. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another interactive animated story time with your friend, your host, Jordan TheFearRaiser. you know how it is. And today, I'll be telling you all another story that has to do with a scary encounter that happened when I was on a flight one time. However, before we get into that, allow me to quickly explain how this works. So in this new series, I will be telling you guys stories, and I ask for you to leave a comment in the comments below on whether or not you believe that this story that I tell for the episode is true or fake. When I upload the next interactive animated story, I will feature the winners from the previous story on who got it right or not. So you'll essentially be getting a shout out, which is pretty awesome. So with that being said, let's quickly debunk the mystery of the previous animated story, which was about breaking into my school when I was in junior high, featuring CypherDen, by the way, who rocks. So, was this a true story of mine? The answer is... nope! This was, in fact, not a true story. So, for the people who guessed it right, here is your moment of fame. Alright, now that we've got that out of the way, are you all ready for the next story? Because this one is not only crazy, but quite frightening as well. Are you ready? Alright, let's get right into it. So this story takes place a few years ago when I had for the first time ever taken a flight by myself to my first ever YouTube convention. This convention was, I believe, called the GameCon or ArcadieCon. I don't know. Since then, they've continued their conventions, which is unfortunate, but I won't get into that. During this time, I had flown to Galveston, Texas, and it was honestly a wonderful time. I got to meet a lot of friends, make new ones, and meet a lot of fans. Galveston was also pretty nice, but the beaches were rather stinky. But regardless, I had a blast. However, this story doesn't actually have anything to do with before I went to the convention or during my time there, but after the convention, when my trip had finally come to an end and I had to come back home. Now, as you know, I haven't exactly been the most upbeat person when it comes to flying on a plane, so I've always been a little nervous while traveling, and considering this was my first real vacation, technically alone, my anxiety was quite high. But with that said, I got in my Uber, got to the airport, got on the plane, and was on my way back to the land of beavers and maple, Minnesota. Nah, I'm just kidding. Canada, of course. Jeez, where else? So my flight was going from Houston to Toronto, and it was about a 3-hour flight, so I had quite some time to kill. So I sat back, tried my best to relax, and I watched the movie like any regular person does on a plane, minding my own business and looking for those hot, steamy cups of coffee I asked for when the flight attendant had come over my section, while watching documentaries about space. What can I say? I'm a space nerd. However, this is where things started to get weird. So, as I sat down on the window side of the plane, the person next to me, a man, had gotten up midway through the flight to what I assumed was to go to the washroom, and had headed to the back of the plane. Harmless, right? So I was more or less minding my own business and continued to watch this space documentary with my boy Neil deGrasse Tyson. However, as the time went by, I had noticed that the guy had not returned back to his seat. I mean, not to be nosy or anything, but when you're on a plane and someone who's sitting next to you doesn't come back when they're supposed to be seated, does kind of come off as a slight concern to me, of course. And you know, my anxiety was on the rise with not only that, but because of the turbulence as well, which I have to add was terrible during this time. Have you ever gone to the washroom in a plane when you hit turbulence? You know what? I'm not even gonna get into that. The plane was shaking, and we also flew through a thunderstorm, so that was not so great. Anyways, about 40 minutes before we were preparing to land, I had noticed something really sketchy beginning to happen. The flight attendants kept walking back and forth with a concerned look on their faces, and this to me gave me a really bad feeling in my stomach. Usually flight attendants are calm and collective, but when you see them with a look of dismay on their face, you know there's something wrong. And considering the person next to me was still missing, I had started to feel even more nervous. During this time, a commotion had begun to slowly ensue as the flight attendants had surrounded a woman who appeared to have fainted in the back of the plane. This, of course, began to cause some panic in the plane as no one had any answers to what was really going on and if the woman was okay. And also that the guy sitting next to me was still nowhere to be seen. With little time left before landing to our destination, things began to go on the rise as people were speaking amongst themselves and continuously looking to the back of the plane as well. Now again, I want to elaborate how bad of a situation this was for me. I'm literally flying on a plane, which at the time was my biggest fear, why this is all going on, and the guy next to me is still nowhere to be seen. My head is spinning with questions, and my heart rate has been going 1,000 beats a second, just like this. God, just thinking about all this is making me feel dehydrated as heck. Frick! Hell yeah. As time went on the flight, attendants began to panic as it turned out that this woman was experiencing some kind of breathing problems or something, and there was no medical assistance on this plane until we had landed. Things were not looking good. Up from that moment until we landed, this continued until we had finally touched the ground and quickly made it to the terminal loadout. And we were all told to remain seated as the paramedics had to rush in to bring the woman to the hospital. But you'll never believe what happened next. A man had gotten up and attempted to try and leave, saying, "I don't have time for this, I have a life too." And as he tried to leave, people in the plane began to roast this guy so hard, but had also been told to sit down by the paramedics as well, which more or less just caused a bit of commotion. The nerve of that guy! Regardless, the paramedics put the lady on the stretcher and took her off the plane, to which we were finally allowed to get off as well. Oh, and did I forget to mention, that man who was sitting next to me who was missing during the entire plane ride? It turns out he wasn't allowed to come back to his seat because he was behind all of the commotion happening at the back of the plane. So he had to stay there the whole time. So yeah, that was pretty crazy. And to believe that that was my first of 2 plane rides I had to take. Crazy how things turn out, isn't it? If there's one thing that can be learned from all of this, it's that don't be that guy. You know, that guy who's trying to get off the plane during all of this going on. Be considerate and treat people with kindness and empathy, especially if someone is dying. Like, come on! Either way, I got off the plane, called my parents, and luckily had a smoother ride back home. But anyways, guys, that is my story. Now the question I have for you is this story true or not? Let me know in the comments below, and I will reveal the winners in the next episode. But until then, guys, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and smack that bell button to be on top of my latest videos. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and check out my Twitch sometimes. You know, I'm always there. I'm live streaming and stuff, and we can chat and things like that. Alright guys, until next time, have a great day, and I'll see you later. Bye!